Greetings. Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter.
Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter.
We waited for that. Oh my gosh. And now Sean's got no audio. Is anybody else hearing him? I'm not.
No.
This is a total clusterfuck.
I know, but we're gonna have to stop and start over. This crazy.
Should just no.
Now he's gone. Let's have a real one now that Sean's
Just
gone.
release this as the episode.
This is gonna be our 51-second episode.
This is a total cock up. I'm out of here.
I know. Well, I just love that the new talk studio from Streamlabs is firing on all cylinders right now.
All right, Kelly, you ready?
Yeah, let's.
All right,
do
and
this thing.
3, 2.
Man, I've already done the fucking intro.
Okay, we should get the intro.
Fun fact. Oh man. All right. Anyway. So Mark, you saw it. You saw Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
I did see Guardians of the
And
Galaxy.
I know, yeah, of course you did, because you, I think, were the first one.
Yep.
Kelly, you ran right out to go see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so everyone who really matters, as far as their opinions, has seen this.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly,
What?
since Mark's wife can't get enough of you, what were your thoughts? Because I know she's dying to hear. What were your thoughts on it?
You know, she's going to regret ever listening to this program. You all really need to. You all need to give her a break.
You need to back off, yeah.
And that just makes me push on the gas.
I know, right? Yeah. Sorry, babe. Nothing I could do.
Just know that you wouldn't be the butt of any jokes in my world.
That was great. That was well done.
Okay, what I think, you know what? I actually liked it. I don't like. I like the first Guardians of the Galaxy most, right? When I think of the trilogy, I think number 1 was the best. Number 2, sort of, I don't know. It was okay. There were moments of it that I just didn't. I don't know. They landed flat for me. And in this one, there was a little bit of that too. But generally, I thought it was a pretty decent wrap up to the story, as best as they could do with where they were in the storyline. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was well acted. I thought it was well put together. I know some of the actors aren't coming back, you know, or aren't interested in continuing with the franchise, and that makes sense. So there's always that element of like, okay, how are we going to wrap this up? And I think they handled all of that fairly well. I think the question that I have though is like, is moving forward, where do they go with the people who actually do want to continue with the franchise? How do those storylines develop? Where does that go from there? I think that the MCU is in a very precarious spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had that whole story arc with the Infinity War, and that was really compelling. They had lots of, really great movies they put out, and now they're at that point of like, okay, that was your best shot. What's your next? What's your follow up? And as most people know, the follow up is usually never as strong, and so I'm really sort of concerned. So I like the movie. I'm concerned for what's going to happen next.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
I agree with just about everything Kelly said. And when you talk about these actors not coming back, like I'd heard Drax, like the actor said, it'll be, I'm going to hang this character up and it'll be nice to move on to some other things. And so when you hear stuff like that, you're like, oh my God, who are they going to kill off? And then in the trailer, you see that thing where Star-Lord is like screaming in pain or agony. And you're like, oh, somebody died. Oh no. And so like, when you hear about actors leaving the franchise, the first thought is, man, they're going to kill a bunch of people off. right? And spoiler alert, they didn't kill anybody off, which being able to exit people from the franchise without killing them off, I thought it was very well done. You know what I mean? Like kind of what they had people go do. I was like, oh, okay, because they kind of fooled me. Like going in, you're like, oh my god, who's gonna die? Right? It's the third and final. You're like, they're gonna kill somebody, and they didn't. But it was still a satisfying ending. Nobody got that heroic, I'm gonna throw myself in front of a bullet for the emperor kind of thing, which I think a lot of us were expecting, and we didn't get that. And I like kind of that scene at the end. I'm sure you stayed through the credits where they kind of show this newer version of the Guardians, the people who are still off doing that. And I was like, oh, I'd totally watch a movie with those people in it as well. So like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. And it was kind of neat to see Rocket's backstory, because as Marvel characters go, between him and Howard the Duck, they're kind of like, what are they going to do with these characters? But it was a really well done story. Like I enjoyed it. It was definitely better than the second one. Again, I'm with Kelly. Not as good as the first, but it was a solid outing, I think.
I think the only thing that really made it not as good as the first was that it felt like Adam Warlock was kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah, and I remember him from the Infinity Gauntlet series, where he was Billy Badass and whatnot, and so to have him be this kind of incompetent, kid almost who doesn't understand his powers really and hasn't quite come into them yet. Yeah, I was expecting more from Adam Warlock, but that's coming from my background of him in the comics. You know what I'm saying? So like, I can forgive it, but I agree. Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. In the comics, he was always a bit more serious.
Yeah.
He came across that way anyway, and was had the soul gem for a while, that kind of thing, and was very intricate to the story of the Infinity Gauntlet and all of that. And so to see him just, I don't know, it was weird. It was kind of like you said, this goofy,
mama's boy kind of.
Yeah, weird kind of mix of sophisticated but still childlike kind of thing. It felt shoehorned in, and I know that James Gunn felt like, well, I introduced him in the last movie. I kind of got to, or alluded to him in the last movie. I got to put him in this one. I don't know if you had to. You could.
I thought it was
just left that.
I thought it was a beautiful coming of age story for him.
But no, like normally you get these teasers at the end of Marvel movies that portend what's going to happen in the future. And you're right, as you bring that up, that's all I can think of. Like I expected, I don't forget what they called those gold people, the race or whatever. Like I expected them to be like the bad guys, or that this was going to be a big deal. They want revenge on the Guardians for stuff, and they created this perfect thing, and like that was the setup from the previous one. You're like, oh man, this is going to be a thing. And they're like, no, we work for this really bad guy that none of us have ever heard of before.
I think they were called the Chuds.
I don't remember. Cannibalistic human underground dwellers.
Oh, I'll tell you what, if they put them in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. But I did like what they did with the High Evolutionary, though. I didn't like him in the comics. Never liked him in the comics. He looked weird, had that weird mustache. He was just, odd and never really scary to me. He just wasn't I don't know. He wasn't top-notch kind of villainy.
Yeah, no, he's weak as a villain. I give you that. I mean, when you look at the other movies the Guardians have put out, him as the antagonist of the story is really kind of they're shooting low.
Yeah, man. I mean, you had Ronan
the Accuser
in the first one, who had the Power Stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one, you got Ego.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are cosmic level being. I mean, Ronan on his own isn't, but with the stone he is. And then Ego, and then the High Evolutionary, who can kind of manipulate gravity a little bit to push you into a wall. It felt kind of like a letdown, and he's sitting there doing animal testing on animals and stuff and all that, and that kind of thing. But I thought that the guy who played him did a good job. I thought he did a good job, and I did like that they got kind of dark. for a good bit of that there. That actually is one of the things that I think turned a lot of people off. I know it bothered Helena. I know that bothered her. She didn't like that, it got so dark. She didn't like seeing Rocket, going through all that stuff, and that storyline there. It was kind of difficult for her to see that, and so I can understand it, especially when you consider the first movie and the second movie and how they were a bit more lighthearted. However, if you think about it, in the second movie, there was a bunch of kids who were dead inside of Ego. They showed a mountain of bones and skulls of children in there. But I think people just kind of gloss over that because there was the funny little baby Groot running around and
right.
Rocket,
Well, also in the second one, they the Reavers had that little civil war where they're tossing people out the airlock.
Right.
Like that was pretty dark. Like I remember thinking, like, oh my god, this is. I was not expecting them to go there. That's that was kind of terrible. So
all is forgiven with an injection of no squeezy.
Well, yeah,
it's all
and I was gonna say, I think a lot of people just kind of gloss over that because you got Baby Groot running around, and so all the other stuff just kind of goes out the window. You don't really think about it, but when you take the the cute little baby thing, which in this case was a little baby Rocket, and you start cutting his head open and doing all that stuff and bringing the bloody saws in, and that kind of thing, you make it pretty front and center, especially when he's sitting there saying "hurt." That's
no, they leaned heavily into that.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. He made sure you were not going to miss that. He made sure that was front and center. And I think that didn't sit well with a number of people, but you know what? I thought that was the story. That's what, his background was. And you're supposed to have empathy for this character who really didn't have much of a family, much of a future, kind of, abused his whole life and all of that. And just, really sympathetic character that way. That's part of his arc. So,
but then again, maybe that was James Gunn's point, is let me see how far off the rails I can take this and drive people into the DC world where, I'm going to present more happier, fluffy stories.
Yeah, because that's what DC is known for.
Yeah. yeah, it's true. So I don't know.
And I completely agree. Like Infinity Saga, right? All those movies leading up to the Infinity War, those were good. Even the bad ones were servicing the story to get us to that final one. And all of the ones since, I keep waiting for this kind of setup for the next big arc, and they keep teasing Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's, how many movies do we have to see before we tie all this together? I keep waiting. And again, this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, didn't have anything to do with pushing that storyline forward. You see what I'm saying? Like at least with the original Guardians, like, oh, we had an Infinity Stone, which we know was in service to this larger story of the Infinity War. This one, I'm like, there was nothing in there about Kang the Conqueror. It was that, unless I'm missing something, right? I mean, it was a story. Let's tie up this in a bow, which was cool, and I enjoyed it, and it was fine as a standalone story or as a capstone on this 3 Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy.
And that's what I fear, is that in the original MCU lineup, there was the arc. My fear at this point is that there isn't one. Like, there is no greater tie-in to some of these things, is that the Guardians of the Galaxy movie was truly just the end, the wrap-up of that story. Now, certainly they could bring him back in at some point in another part of the story, because they did say that the Star-Lord will return.
They did say that, yeah.
So, I mean, there could be something, but me as the viewer, I've got nothing that, leads me to wait the next 2 years.
Well, like I said, at the end of the movie, though, he's on Earth.
Yeah.
So anything that happens on Earth, he's already there. That you know what I mean? I could see it being very easy if, Kang the Conqueror shows up on Earth and he's like, oh no, Earth is in danger. My grandpa lives here. Let me go hang out with the Avengers and fight this new
leaves
new
his
villain
job
or
at the Dairy
something.
Queen and starts fighting for the Earth.
Exactly,
Again. Sure.
exactly. I
And
could
you
see
could
it. So.
I could see Rocket showing up again and all that because what's his name? The guy who voices Rocket. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper.
Yes, yeah, the dude from The Hangover and all that. His daughter loves Rocket. His daughter loves Rocket, and apparently, has him do the Rocket voice all the time and stuff for her, and that kind of. So, some of the other folks, I could see them going back to that group again and again, or now and especially if you're doing voiceover work and you don't have to go through the makeup or any of that. You don't even have to do any of the motion capture stuff because they have.
It was all motion capture, Sean.
What's that?
I know,
It was
but
all,
Bradley
it
Cooper.
was all motion capture.
I know, but Bradley Cooper didn't have to do that.
No, he
Bradley
did.
What he's
Cooper.
saying.
He did. He did.
He did. Oh my God.
He did. He's
How
a
inconvenient.
dedicated actor.
Yeah.
They actually even had him go through the surgery. So when he said it hurt, it really did hurt.
Method.
That's
So
dedication.
So I could see him coming back. Him and Vin Diesel and all of them, because it really doesn't take much. All you got to do is show up and do some of the voice work, and much easier for them than like Dave Bautista sitting through hours of makeup and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see him coming back. He's actually said, as a matter of fact, that he'd be interested in doing stuff with James Gunn over at DC too. So who knows?
Okay. Yeah, kind of the only thing that I really didn't like about the movie that kind of stands out to me is that all scene we've seen on the trailers where Star-Lord starts giving the puppy dog eye looks to Nebula and is like, "Oh, you had really black eyes. I've never noticed that." Like that just came out of left field, and it felt like they were trying to shoehorn a joke in there.
Yeah.
Now they did give us a little bit of a payoff at the end of the movie where he's like says goodbye to what's her name that he's still in love with, but they're not together. And he's like, I gotta go see my granddad on Earth. And that felt like a little bit of kind of emotional maturity or him moving on kind of thing. But him all of a sudden getting puppy dog eyes at Nebula, that didn't work for me. It didn't fit. It came out of nowhere. It felt like a cheap joke. You know what I'm saying?
I thought it was hilarious.
Her name's Gamora.
I knew that was going to be Kelly's response to that. Yeah. No. This was a joke had to do with Nebula. So,
I did like the element that the Gamora and Peter didn't end up like it didn't end. They didn't wrap it up with a nice bow. I thought that was great.
See, I like that too. That was another thing that Helena didn't like. She wanted that to have a happy ending, that kind of thing. But
Right.
I thought, no, I mean that felt right to me. That felt like, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah. The I bet we were fun was enough of an acknowledgement without saying we're gonna go there.
Yeah.
That I was like, in another life, yeah, that might have been cool, but that's not me anymore. Kind of, I was like, okay, yeah, I was digging it.
But it will be later.
Who knows? Who knows what can happen?
He can do better. Come on.
He can do better.
He can do a lot better.
I mean, she's green. Come on.
Yeah. You've seen the
Like the
Marvel
M&M.
universe.
That's
You've
right.
seen the Marvel universe. They're a dime a dozen. You can get you can get all kinds out there. Did you guys see the Dune trailer? I wanted to ask you something about that.
No.
Yes.
I did. I'm not sure if
I
it's
did.
exactly the trailer you're talking about, like the Dune 2 kind of teaser.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Let me ask you something. Out of all the fandom that's out there, does the Dune fandom strike you as the most chock full of feeling superior to everybody else in sci-fi fandom? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I'll say yes. There's some intellectual I like Dune. Dune was the precursor to all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everything stole from Dune.
Yeah.
You can't
Frank
talk
Herbert-
about anything without them saying, "Oh, that was taken from Dune." Dune.
Yeah,
did
Frank
that.
Herbert had a lot of you're right. The people that are big Dune fans do generally tend to hold a little air of superiority.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they like something so boring and long.
But you can, the funny thing is that most of those people that hold that air of superiority haven't read past the first two books. So when he starts, the spoiler, he turns into a giant worm. When he starts doing that kind of stuff, and they're moving 10,000 years ahead, and you've got clones coming back over and over and over getting killed. I mean, their knowledge base kind of shrinks down.
I mean,
Wait,
look,
so Dune is the precursor to paranoia?
Yeah, essentially. Yes.
Huh.
But this is the thing. There was the whole reason I got into this. There's this guy on YouTube who is all about Dune and how everything steals from Dune, and he goes and watches the others. Oh, they get this from Dune, got that from Dune, and all this. Dune is a ripoff of Lawrence of Arabia. That's what it is. It's Lawrence of Arabia in space and culturally appropriating all of the drug culture that was culturally in South or Central America about the mushrooms and all that stuff. That's where he got his influence for that. But you know what? That's where everybody gets their influences is from other things. There's nothing that is truly original. It can't be. So sitting there saying, well, Dune did this, Dune did that, Frank Herbert did this and that and all. Stop it, man. Stop it.
The Bible did it first, 40 years in the desert.
That's...
That part where Jesus said his name was a killing word gets me every time.
It's time to ride the sandworm.
That's right.
Jesus riding the worm.
But he even took stuff because Frank Herbert apparently was deep into preserving the environment. So he took stuff from Charles Darwin.
Hold on, I'm still thinking about Jesus's his whole Atreides. He got his multiple visions of different futures with Judas as his best friend, teaching him the ways of the sand, and then another one where he's betraying him and stabbing him. Yes, I like that. That's good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The mashup we didn't know we needed.
He even took stuff.
Beautifully said.
True to form. Yes, that was the most eloquent point I've ever heard you make, Rich.
The water of life.
Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back. Please continue.
Yeah, he even took stuff from Charles Darwin because he was deep into environmentalism apparently, and his whole idea of Dune being a closed biosphere. that was all Darwinian stuff from his time on the Galapagos. So he didn't come. He just, you're right. He shoved together a whole bunch of concepts that he had been exposed to, which all writers do. I mean,
right, exactly. That's right. Yeah,
Tolkien did the same thing.
To say everybody else stole from him, that kind of thing. It's just ridiculous.
But wait a minute. Rich, you did say that in a later book. He turns into a worm.
He does.
I'm out.
He does.
I'm out.
It's actually really ridiculous.
Helena's gonna be watching, and she likes it very much. And you know what? It was a beautiful movie. It was beautifully done, and really well done, and all that. And I got nothing against the story or Frank Herbert's creation or any of that. I think it's art and it's really well done and all that stuff. It's enjoyable and everything. I like it and all of that. I just cannot. The fan base is the thing that gets me. You know what I mean? It's just they have more. It seems like they have more people in there who are like, everything stole from him. Everything stole from him. And it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like all these other properties have had more. Like Dune had the books, and then they had the movie in the '80s.
Yeah.
What else have they had up until now?
You know what I'm saying? So like, they had a mini series on.
I do remember that. Yeah.
That kind of, but nothing like on the level of a Star Trek or Star Wars or any of that stuff.
Or Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that just bugs the hell out of his fandom and him a little bit too. I know he put out some stuff talking about that. But
well, I tell you though, it is starting to feel like these Dune movies are going to be kind of the Dune equivalent of the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah, and
like you can tell this guy has passion and he cares about what he's doing, and they're really crafting these well-made movies. Like I'm looking forward to it. I read Dune way back in the day. And all I could think reading through this is like, wow, this is where 40K came from. You know, there's a whole lot of 40K that came from Dune. So in some ways, the Dune guys are right. I think 40K wouldn't exist without all those dudes reading Dune. But like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I didn't think the teaser for the second was terribly exciting, but it's a teaser. You know what I mean? Like they're not supposed to show me everything, and I don't want them to either.
Sure,
right,
but just so you know, that wasn't my point though.
I know.
You know, I'm just saying that the fandom being that rabid about it, you know, it's based, like I say, Herbert didn't come up with this on his own. He took a bunch of things and threw them all together and made a melange. How do you like that word?
I will say this. I went and watched the first Dune movie without any insight as to who was in it, what was going to happen. I didn't even know that it was only part one of something. So as the movie's going along, I'm like, this one makes a hell of a lot more sense than the first attempt to make a Dune movie, right?
Well,
but then hang on a minute. But then as we're getting through it, I'm like, you know, we're running out of time. They should really cut to the chase here. I mean, they're really dragging this out. and then when the movie ended, I was like, wait a minute, there was way more to this. I'm pretty sure. I went through the whole movie without understanding there was a part two, and just thought,
right.
Yeah, well, Kelly's sitting there waiting. Wait a minute, wasn't Sting supposed to show up?
Yeah, where's Sting's character?
So I saw the original. I saw the original Dune.
You know, Sting stole his whole thing from Frank Herbert too.
I saw the De Laurentiis production you're referring to. I actually saw it in the movie theater as a kid. My dad took me to it.
Yeah, Kelly and I saw that with Tammy. Remember?
It was it was about I think the movie itself was about 3 hours long when they showed it in the theater when I saw it, and they handed you a pamphlet of definitions, so you understood what they were saying. And I wish I still had it because it's.
And then they turned the lights off. Yeah, perfect.
Yes, yes.
You know.
It was meant to be read afterwards because you would be so confused by all the terminology. You look it up, like, what the hell is a Fremen? What's a Kwisatz Haderach?
But see, that defeats the purpose of me going to. I went to the movie so I wouldn't have to read the bloody book. Don't give me a book that I then have to reference.
Give me the cliff notes,
right? You know, come on, man. How many people had to sit there and I just can't follow along because the name was tough. You know, I mean, come on. You really don't need to. Okay, there's space witches, there's space priest dudes who can sit there and like fold space, and they travel from here to there. There's an emperor, there's a duke, you know. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. You really don't have to sit there and remember each and everyone's name and all that.
They're all taking drugs.
You know, yeah, that's essentially it. Yeah, they're all fighting over a planet that's full of drugs. Yeah, that's really all it is. And
full of the best cocaine ever.
Yeah. And that was really about it. So
to be fair, it's like cocaine mixed with oil.
Yeah.
In importance.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. The spice melange.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because it runs the economy of the entire universe because it extends your life. So
and the starship.
And by the way, that's where I got my inspiration for Ovaltine in all of our campaigns was from that. So I stole that from Frank Herbert.
Yeah, Ovaltine was the MacGuffin in many of our campaigns.
It was, yeah, and made about as much sense.
That's right.
You don't think 40K is way more expansive than Dune?
It is, but you know, the Bene Gesserit is very much like, you know, some of the Inquisition and the High Lords and all these kind of things. Like, like it had that kind of, you know, church/government feel.
But that's a borrowed story plot line from history. I think 40K would exist without Dune. I think 40K would exist quite heavily.
Right.
It's so heavily influenced by the Romans and other know, warfare of antiquity. It just would have been a thing.
Crusades.
Right. That's what I'm feeling when I'm looking at 40K is that, you know, you could say that the Bene Gesserit is, you know, inspiration for and all that, but they stole that from essentially the Catholic Church and
hey, look, I'm no Dune fan. I'm not getting all uppity about it.
I think you are.
And saying that one is better than the other.
I'm waiting for him to say fun fact.
Fun fact.
Fun fact, let me speak to all of you Dune fans out there for a moment. Look, the creator of Dune stole everything from somebody else at some point, okay? You know, after the first human beings learned how to write and fucking tell stories, you know, we're done with the idea of who can lay claim to what storyline. So
Yeah.
get the hell over it. Move
Yeah.
on. Get a
That's
life.
Can we call
You know, that was
Can we call
exactly
this
my
section
thought.
Kelly's hot take? This is Kelly's hot take section of the video.
Yeah, we're
You
gonna
know,
cut
that
out
was-
just that part and be like a
But he's
special
right,
message
that was-
to Dune fans everywhere.
That was almost exactly the thought I had about it as I was thinking about this before, is that if you're going to look for something that's completely original, well, you're going to stop
Matrix.
with maybe the
Care Bears.
Odyssey, and that's it. You know,
Mm.
there
Care
would have
Bears.
been nothing else made after, you know, the writings of antiquity, the paintings on the wall, and, you know, all that.
I
There
think
would be
Hello
nothing
Kitty
else.
Island Adventure is pretty original.
That's derivative of Dune.
It is
There's
the ultimate island of adventure.
Hello Kitty's a direct ripoff.
An island set against the blackness of the
Starter
stars.
Choir are the inspiration for Hello Kitty. It's obvious.
And I say, look, and I say this as someone who really liked the idea of Dune, liked the universe a lot. The Denis Villeneuve movie, I think, is great. You know, really well done. Like you said, a lot of passion, a lot of love for that for that material and all that. I think that's great. I
thought it was boring and pedantic.
There you go. See, two ends of the rainbow. Who still, and this is how valid the point is that Kelly's on the opposite end of that scale, right? And yet we both agree. We both agree that the fandom is just, you know, a bit more delusionally rabid.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
but-
exactly where you're getting. Like, I've never had a Dune fandom all up in my face about something. Like,
Dude, you
where
gotta-
are they up
and-
in your face? Like, is
Anywhere I'm telling you, when you go and you look at anyone who's, because I was looking at the history of Dune and all the different things and all that, so you start watching all the information on it. Can't go 5 minutes without, you know, a comment or the example of, and so stole this, and Lucas borrowed, and they always do the quotes in there, you know, and all this stuff.
Yeah,
and,
well,
you know, that kind of thing.
why do you think Tatooine's a desert planet? Dune.
All right. You know, and you want to say, I have no issue with that part, right? Where's the Jedi? You know, where are they? Where does that show up? Where's the Force? They don't have the Force. They talk about the inspiration for it being Dune, that he stole the idea from Dune, right? No, the inspiration for it was the same as it was for Herbert, a melange of things, a bunch of different things coming together. And
Did you working that fancy word in any chance
right,
you get?
'cause
Good job.
No. I use that because that's what they call the spice in
The spice.
Dune.
Mhm.
So,
Milan,
right, the spice melange. Right.
crisscross.
But they talk about that. Lucas, as an example, got his inspiration primarily from the Japanese culture with the samurai.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know, and Taoism and so forth. That's where the Force comes from, the light and the dark side and all that. Yeah, there were so many things that he pulled in for inspiration for that from so many different sources. It's the same thing that Herbert
He loved
did.
Kurosawa. He thought
So-
Kurosawa was great.
So it's
Right.
all just really cultural appropriation, is
Yes.
what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, across the board, you know. And you know what? I think it's great. You know, one of the things that I think Star Wars does really well, is that they have such a vast array of characters. You don't have the wide array of alien species and all that stuff and so many others, other than like Star Trek and, you know, that kind of thing, where they actually work together, which is, I think, a wonderful part that they have. In Dune, it's pretty much just humans all the time, humans and worms, and getting high. You know,
Just like in real life.
well, for Herbert, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and his magic mushrooms. That's where he got the blue eyes from, because the mushrooms that he's, you know, was dealing with, when you cut them open, they, when the chemical inside oxidizes, it turns a deep blue. That's where the whole blue eyes thing for the Fremen comes from, you know, all that stuff. So, yeah. So anyway, I was just wondering if you guys had noticed that too. Had noticed that from the fan base there as well.
Yeah, that the fan base is snooty. Yeah.
I don't.
But
I don't find
but
him-
I could say that about a lot of fan bases. If I'm honest, I think you know, if and Rich, I'm sorry, this comment's going to involve you slightly, but I think when we make fun of Tom Bombadil and Rich defends Tom Bombadil, you know, there's a little bit of like, okay, yeah, you get Tolkien more than I do, but you know, I think it can be true across the board.
I just like him because you guys hate him.
Hate,
I like
yes.
being contrary.
Hated
I've
him.
hated him since I first read the books. Like I was like, what is this guy doing here? He doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I was like, what are
Dislike,
we
yeah.
doing here? And then they go to the Council of Elrond, where you have these leaders of the free world, and they literally legitimately are like, let's give it to that guy hanging out in the woods who's a bum that lives down by the river. As a legitimate choice, and they're like, nah, he'd lose it.
True, because that's how powerful he is. He just doesn't care.
Yes, powerful. Let's use that word.
Powerfully stupid.
He's so powerful. He's like, I don't care about it.
No, but I mean, you could say about any fan base. I mean, we could pick on Tolkien, we can pick on Harry Potter, we can pick on Dune. The Dune people do have a particular penchant for being like, we're a higher class of nerd.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, same thing with like comics, right? The old school comic people look at the Johnny Come Latelys like, oh, you're just here because of the movie or the show or whatever. I was reading that comic back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole my sweet summer
Now,
child.
I know.
Well,
Circle back to that one.
Yeah, top of mind. Yeah, another favorite. It's top of mind.
Yeah.
But I despise that phrase.
You should not have let us know that.
Yeah, that's fine. You can use it as much as you like. That's part of the comedy of the show. I did it on purpose because I know you're going to start throwing it out there every instance you can. So, you know, we got to have comedy here. But as far as the comics go, I will say that there is a bit of truth to having some tenure in in enjoying certain things and knowing a bit about the history of where it came from. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you don't discourage people by saying, well, you just don't know what you're talking about. No, you try and educate them, which is the whole purpose of this. we need to spread the love, not
let me go on right now
reject
talking about comics and knowledge and say, boy, do I miss Drew. He was a font of knowledge and wisdom when it came to all things comic.
Yep.
And rage.
And rage.
Very angry. Very angry.
Knowledge about comics, rage about comics.
For anyone just coming on, Drew was the former person who took my spot, who was in my spot.
You took his spot. Get it right.
I was wait a minute.
Somebody's been hitting the spice pretty hard this morning.
Put the melange down.
That's right. Step away from the melange.
Spice coffee. But yeah, that's just to fill in our new viewer if we get one.
Yeah, how would you describe Drew to somebody who doesn't know Drew and never seen
Hulk.
him?
The Hulk with
but it doesn't turn green.
The Hulk with
blonde hair and glasses.
That's Sean. That's funny because I was walking around the other day. I walked up to Indy and I said, "It's clobbering time," and I totally thought of Drew.
That's not a Hulk saying though. That is a thing saying.
Yes, but that's exactly why it would be Drew.
Right.
Drew has the rage of Hulk with a lot less muscle. And
you're being snooty, Mark. You're being snooty.
And he loves the Thing.
He does.
You know, but in all honesty, his rage is more in line with the Hulk.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Easily, yeah. Yeah.
He would be Bruce Banner, who got all the rage and none of the muscle.
Yeah. The gamma waves affected him differently.
And never changes back.
Yeah.
So angry but so weak.
That's my secret. I'm always angry.
No, but I agree with you. Drew is a font of knowledge.
Yeah.
Of
No, I was thinking of him the
anything.
other day. I was out at
Yes.
this place, and there's a store around here called Tashi Station. And they opened a second store, so it's Tashi Station Echo Base. And I was like, oh, I'd never been there, and I was in the neighborhood, and I was like, let me stop in there. And all the way in the back, they had comic books, but the whole front of the store was toys galore. You know what I mean? So they had
Mhm.
all old, like, the GI Joes and the He-Men and all the stuff from kind of the '80s and our time, and new stuff and Legos and model kits, and but they had all kinds of stuff. So I'm looking at the old His tanks from GI Joe, and the what is it, the Castle Grayskull they had in there, but it was like this huge collection of action figures and accessories and vehicles or whatever. And it was really cool just to look through. And for those of you that don't know, Drew's a big collector of Star Wars toys, and I imagine other ones as well. But they had so many
Action
cool
figures.
things to action
In
figures.
general, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good time. I know there's the original, I think, is in Springfield, and the other one's out here in Centerville, Virginia. So it was worth popping in to look around. I was like, they had some cool stuff. So
Did you see the aircraft carrier, and were you bitter about never receiving it?
yeah, none of us got I don't think it actually exists. I don't know anybody that ever had one. I've never seen one in real life. I think it was vaporware.
It was hideously expensive. I remember looking at it in the Sears and Roebuck catalog, dating ourselves here, but it was like $200. And back in those days, that was like, it could have been $1 million,
Yeah.
My dad used to balk at $6 for a Star Wars action figure, which was, 2 times the price of what everything else was back in the 70s. But yeah, that aircraft carrier, man, no one got that unless you were like in Richard Pryor's The Toy, like the kid in that room.
You think anybody would buy action figures of Dune? Like if you had Baron Harkonnen.
I guarantee they do, because I have one right in front of me.
Yeah, but see, that's it. Like buying a McFarlane Toys kind of special collector for older people that have disposable income is one thing.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, shut up. Most toys are actually okay. That's
there
pretty
he
cool.
is.
But most toys have like a property tie-in, like a cartoon or something like that, or they're based on a movie, and so like that's what really sells the toys. Dune never had that. You know what I'm saying? Like the 80s movie wasn't a big toy vehicle, right? Yeah. The current one is a toy vehicle for like these kind of like the one you just showed us. That is not for kids to play with. That is for adults who have a job and disposable income and low impulse control.
That's a big boy toy. Yeah. The 80s did have the 80s version of Dune. The De Laurentiis Dune did have toys, but they were awful. They were not very good.
Well, most of the 80s toys were awful.
Well, the effects were pretty awful too. So, in all fairness, did they make one with the shield? Remember how the shield looked?
No.
Blocked? Remember that, Mark?
As far as I remember,
yeah.
Looked like
blocky
Minecraft.
Looked like that early kind of Max Headroom, ridiculous MTV era animation.
It looked like honestly, it looked like you were playing Minecraft. It looked like the blocky kind of guy.
It did look a bit like Minecraft. You're right. Yeah. No, they didn't do the shield as far as I remember. They did the sandworm. Actually was pretty good. That was the one toy that was really nifty. But like the crawler and the ornithopter and that stuff, it did not look very good.
Nifty is a
old man term.
That's a callback.
It's a colloquialism from long ago, an age in the past, and it means akin to good.
We have to explain that to
welcome to Speak Nerd Network, where we explain 1950s language.
Hey, speak is actually in the title. We've got to define our terms.
Yes, we do.
It's truth.
Yeah.
Your word of the day is nifty.
Nifty. Look it up. I
Followed
bet you won't
by
find it in the dictionary.
And did you know that apparently Tolkien did not like Herbert's work? Didn't like him.
Yeah, I had read that. Yeah, I had read that.
Yeah, but
in your face, Herbert fans.
Yeah, Tolkien rule.
I like both. So,
you guys like trash.
I'm glad they did.
We need to send Tom Bomdabil to Dune. That's what we need to do.
Yeah,
Tom
and the
Bombadil would
Mandalorian.
rule the spice.
Those yellow boots rule all.
Yellow boots.
If
Oh.
I were a Dune fan, by the way, I would say that Lucas stole everything from Dune except the Mandalorians. that was entirely Lucas's creation.
So
These guys are going to be so cool until their backpacks malfunction.
Speaking of the Mandalorian,
Yeah.
I like those action figures from the second season, especially the Bounty Hunter episode. But I was wandering around one of the local box stores and I saw the Miggs Mayfield like in his Bounty Hunter gear, right? And I go and I look at the price, and it may just be $26 US for one action figure, this high. And I was like, $26? What do you guys think? These things are made of gold? I mean,
well, if they were made of gold, it would have been about $2,600. So.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, but I was sticker shocked at the increase in prices on the action figures front.
As was
What do
your
you think,
father at
these
the
guys are made
$6
of
figure
tin?
for the
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, he would have a heart attack.
I remember getting some of the earliest Star Wars action figures for I think $3.50.
Yeah.
And then they started going up pretty rapidly right after that. But that's like the
Kmart
lowest I remember.
doubled
Like
the
a
price.
Toys R Us
Yeah.
sticker
No
price was like
recollection of any of that.
$3.50.
Hey, did you get any of the Micronauts? Did you ever get those?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did.
Remember how
Yeah, they were
remember
great.
how they went together with the magnets and
Yep.
stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That was the best. Those.
Yeah.
were
I had a friend that had the alien creature ones, the Reptoid and that stuff. I could never find them, but he had them. I thought they were the greatest thing ever. I thought they were super awesome. I had
Those were
time
the
travel.
days, man, when they made toys you could choke on or put an eye out with.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. The original Boba Fett did have that little shooty rocket.
firing rocket.
They had to
yes.
recall it because people were shooting their eye out or choking on it or something.
Worth a fortune
Fools.
if you got one.
Yeah, you had
got
to
a
mail in
prototype.
for it. Yeah.
Yes, I mailed in for mine. I got one.
Nerd.
Didn't have the firing rocket though. Mine was glued in there.
Stupid Boba Fett. Ugh.
Boba Fett's awesome.
I'll never forget when I got it in the mail. It came in a little cardboard box, little rectangular
Yeah, we
gray
don't
box.
care. That's how they mail everything.
I do. I thought it was
Rich was
awesome.
impressed that things didn't
At 8
require a
years
pony
old.
to show up anymore,
I know. Wow, it came in a box.
rather than a satchel.
With a wax seal on it.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
Tied up in twine.
Thank you, my lord.
All right, tell it true, Rich. Somewhere in your vast collection of nerdiness, do you have a Tom Bombadil action figure?
No, I've never seen him make one, unfortunately.
There
I
you
would
go.
have one.
That'll tell
I
you
would
something about the popularity of Tom
I do
Bombadil.
have a Tom Bombadil trading card from the old.
I know you
Decipher
won't shut up about it.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings game. And
I am Googling Tom
I do have the Lord of the
Bombadil
Rings
action
strategy
figure.
battle game miniature. The Games Workshop miniature of Tom Bombadil and Goldberry.
I don't see an action figure, but I see a figurine.
Of Tom Bombadil?
Yeah, they made
Yeah.
statues.
That's because Tom Bombadil.
All I'm seeing is Tom and Jerry action figures.
See, that's because Tom Bombadil does not evoke action. It's just-
Oh, you're right. I do see the figurines.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's
Those
too
look so
powerful.
lame. He's
It
got
looks like
top
a garden
hat.
gnome. Yeah.
He does. He looks like a garden gnome. Yeah.
Well, wasn't he based on his kid's stuffed animal or stuffed toy?
I
Or
think that's
something?
Winnie the Pooh.
No. There was one of his kids had a doll.
Let's give
or
the one
something
ring to
called
Winnie the
Tom.
Pooh.
One of his kids had a doll he called Tom Bombadil or something. That's why he put him in.
I'm
the
not
book.
sure.
Something
I'd have
like
to.
that.
Yeah,
I would
I'd
have that
to look
kid
at my
exercise,
history
man.
of it. I'm not sure
I
on
know.
that one. Where he
No, that
originated
makes
from.
perfect sense. Like this chapter that doesn't fit the book at all. It's like, all right, let me put this in for my kid.
Yeah.
Dad, write
Yeah.
a chapter about my stuffed
They're all
animal
written for his children. I mean,
and his girlfriend Barbie.
He'll be
The
the
house
most
is-
unreasonably powerful being in there that has nothing to do with anything and seems really ridiculously stupid. That's just for you, son. That's just for you. One day this will all be yours.
Thanks, Pops.
Anyway.
one day you'll know the power.
Yeah.
The power.
Yeah.
You can see the picture I'm looking at of Tom Bomdabil. You're like, there's nothing about that picture that says
I
power.
know how he's portrayed. I know.
Although I am
Bombadil-
starting to see who you're mirroring your beard after.
Yeah. Tom
Oh, here's a-
Bombadil, the
here's a knitted one.
Mandalorians. The
A
Mandalorians.
knitted Tom
and
Bomdabil.
What was
Yeah.
the name?
Crocheted.
What was the name of that cat dude out of Thundercats, the little one who always said meow?
Oh, right. I know
Wiley.
who you're talking about.
Snarf.
Snarf, yeah.
Yes, Snarf.
God, I'm
that's
so
another one.
disappointed I actually know that.
Right. Doesn't that piss you off? that
There's
you
like
know that
brain
stuff?
cells that could have been devoted to absolutely anything.
Sure,
else.
Like
nerd.
curing cancer
Wow.
or something, but instead we're like, Snarf, that's the character's name.
Snarf.
All those characters. We should have. Yeah, that would. Never mind. Anyway.
Mm.
All right, boys. Well, good conversation. Thank you very much, Kelly. You're working on Warhawk, right?
No,
Which is
I'm
of
gonna go read
course-
the Dune series now because I realize I've been
right
cheated by
because I
Warhammer.
was going to say it's just
Yeah.
another derivative work of Dune. You're
need to be
working-
elevated.
I'm going to go back to the source material, not this apocryphal nonsense
Right,
that's come lately.
As you pointed out, Sean, I will spend the rest of the day watching Lawrence of Arabia, which
Mhm.
I'll have to take in sections so I can nap from the boredom to then go and read Dune.
Well, if you want
An
the
English
original
guy
works,
came to
yeah,
fight the Turkish.
that's what you got to do. You got to read about Lawrence of Arabia and then Carlos Castaneda, so you can get the two things at once. You know, the ripoff of the one, and then the stories of some reporter going.
I'll
and
put
getting
one on my
high in the
TV
other.
and one on my computer and have it going at the same time.
One eye for each of them.
And then suddenly Dune will make sense to me.
Only after you have the mushrooms.
My name is a killing word. It's time to ride the sandworm.
The K-Man would be a killing word.
You and Jesus
That-
together on the sandworm.
That scene, I will give it to the original production of Dune, the original movie. I have remembered that phrase since the day I saw it in that theater with Tammy.
Because it
and
was
Kelly.
the dumbest thing you've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
completely
Yeah,
not in the book
Well, plus
at all.
we know a guy
That
named
was-
Paul.
That was the one moment in that movie that more than anything else, I was like, how does it make sense?
Look, I followed nothing of the original Dune. When I saw it, I mean, I was lost after the credits and didn't, I'm just in it because you guys are my ride home. And so I'm just there. And when they got to my name is a killing word, I was just like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That and I will bend like a reed in the wind. Yes.
Yes.
I will kill him.
I will kill him.
Waving his knife around, stupid Sting. Yeah.
Little
Tammy.
Sting.
Remember Tammy getting all hot and bothered with him, Faith coming out of the shower.
The blood shower.
Yeah.
The oil
Yeah.
shower.
Tammy and Baron Harkonnen getting all worked up.
Yeah, brother Baron was quite excited. Yeah.
What was that?
You guys, I'm sure you guys know this, that whole sonic weapon idea that was just added because they couldn't come up with a good way to explain how the Bene Gesserit martial arts were supposed to work. So they came up with that to kind of make it a visual representation of something that's only very briefly mentioned in the actual novel. And it's really not even, it's just, you're supposed to say, yeah, okay, good. They can fight hand to hand. That's what they're supposed to be able to be good at.
See,
But,
and that's where I think movie makers make a mistake, is that they assume the rest of us can't fill in that gap. And so they come up with something that ultimately detracts from the overall. I'd rather they hadn't and just left it as it was from the book. But that's
Which
just,
they did in the new films. The new films actually are much more, they honor the original work much better that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the kind of the Vulcan, pinch came from. Spock was like,
Yeah.
"Nah, we got space martial arts. I'll just do this." Ugh. And then the actor falls out. Like he just came up with that on the fly. Apparently, he's like, "Well, we have space martial arts.
We're
Watch
going
this."
to use that. We're going to use that. We're going to become a franchise winner.
I know. Now look at me. I remember Paul back in elementary school had like the blue Star Trek shirt he'd wear, and we were running around pinching each other.
Did he
like
really?
First grade, yeah, he had like a blue Star Trek
Right,
shirt, and we were running around pinching each other on our necks.
Paul with his blue Star Trek shirt.
Did he walk up to you and go, "Remember"? Stick his
Paul
fingers
was
on
a
your head.
science officer. Well, I guess it makes sense. If anyone was going to look like a space elf at the time, it would have been Paul. So,
Indeed.
yeah. All right,
Yeah.
boys. Well, thank you for the conversation. Thank you very
Yep.
much. And
Always a
Kelly,
good
I
time.
look forward to your thoughts on Warhawk and what you think of the story and how it's progressing. So
More
far.
of the Emperor's hubris at play.
You're going to be so surprised when you find out he's actually Tom Bombadil. That's
True.
his name.
As well, he should be.
I will
Went from
appreciate
the third
left
age to the
turn that
40th.
He comes in there one time, and Jakati Khan comes in there, and the Emperor's in there saying, "Ooh, Tom Bombadil." Ooh.
On the
Making his tea.
I will appreciate the moment that he leaves the throne and puts on his yellow boots and marches to face Horus.
That's
You
right.
know.
he's got
March
Malcolm dressed up as
dances.
gold. He's
Dances
got
in
Malcolm
his,
dressed up as Goldberry, blonde wig.
no, Sanguinius was always Goldberry.
It's true. It's
Oh my
true.
God, it starts to make sense now that you say that.
Now you understand. See, I told you.
See, it wasn't Herbert. It wasn't Herbert they ripped off.
See,
They
the thing
took-
is that we've tried to stop the show twice, but you keep bringing up Tom Bombadillo.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
And
Well,
I hate to end a show on Tom Bombadillo. So we should maybe talk about something else just to cleanse the palate before we head out.
No.
like what?
Nothing. I can't think of anything. I'm stuck on
See,
Tom
that's the
Bombadil
thing.
now.
All right.
That's
Well,
the thing. There's no cleansing the palate.
All right. On that
Ladies
happy
and-
note,
ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching as always.
The Tom Bombadillo show.
May Tom Bombadil be with you.
Tom Bombadillo and company.
and also with you.
All right, boys.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
This concludes our Speak Nerd and Enter broadcast.